Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining us now, I don't know if it's the same ladies and gentlemen that Donald was referring to, David McIntosh, president of the Club for Growth. That's at clubforgrowth.org, former U.S. Congressman, of course, from Indiana, joins us. Hello, David.
Hey, how are you, Steve?
Good, or should I say Congressman, actually. So, Donald Trump in the field, and that field expected to grow. Certainly Scott Walker will be in it soon. Next week, I believe Bobby Jindal will be in it as well. So talk about Donald Trump. To me, he said some things that I think resonate with the American people. He says it in his own flamboyant style, which may not resonate or may. But where do you view him on with all his wealth, with all his experience in jobs? I'm interested on a Club for Growth perspective.
Yeah. So our view of Donald Trump is he is a great entertainer. He's been a good developer, but he's not a serious candidate for president. I think you're right. Some of the things he says in the entertainment as he rolls it out touches a nerve with America that are frustrated with Washington that puts itself first and hasn't thought about how do we create jobs and grow the economy. But when you start looking at the ideas he's for, starting a trade war around the world, favoring the Hillary-type Obamacare, really he'd be a better figure in the Democratic debates than with the Republicans, because a lot of the things, his solutions are growing government and having more of the things that have created the problems for us.
All right, so let's move on to Jeb Bush, and I'm looking here at a report card, I believe put out by the Club for Growth, which was the Cato Institute free market think tank, of course, grading Jeb Bush over his 2 terms as governor of Florida. And from 2000 to 2006, every 2 years, he went a B, an A, a B, and then a C. How do you look at him, economically speaking?
Yeah, and we do a white paper that included some of that Cato report card. We looked at what do you do on taxes, spending, structural reform in government to set it up so you're shrinking, not growing government. And he did very well as governor. He has a good pro-growth record. What our paper concludes is if he were to run on that record, he'd be a good pro-growth candidate for president, but he hasn't done that as he's come onto the federal stage. A few of his issues indicate maybe he likes more federal government rather than less, and he hasn't really unveiled what he'd do on taxes or spending. And so the paper, because we rely heavily on the record, said that's very good. We're waiting to see what he does with what he wants to run on, is what he'll do next if he's elected president, and in the economic area.
Right, then we're focusing right now on the economic stuff. So what about the fact that, for instance, Rand Paul has come forward, and I think yesterday, with the help of Stephen Moore, who told us on Monday that it was coming on Thursday, the flat tax, I think 14% across the board flat tax. Where do you guys stand on a flat tax?
I think a flat tax is a great idea. It will unleash a lot of economic growth. I looked at Senator Paul's tax plan. It's a very good, strong pro-growth tax plan. It's a 14.5% for both individuals and corporations. It eliminates a lot of the loopholes and deductions, which is by itself really good pro-growth policy, because if companies have to spend their money coming to Washington to get a tax break, they're not investing their money out there creating jobs. So we're trying to get rid of that type of cronyism in the spending and in the tax side of the equation here. So 3 cheers for Senator Paul with that type of tax plan. I think it'll hopefully spur everybody else to give us some more details about what they want to do on taxes as candidates.
And what's the likelihood? I mean, look, you're as close to the scene as anybody, and having been in the Congress, of course. What would it take? Let's say Rand Paul's elected president. What would it take for him to change the tax code, to basically, and I'm oversimplifying it as a layman, throw everything away and say, here's the postcard you send in, you tell us how much you make, you put 14% in the mail, and that's your tax? How long would something like that take?
You know, and I look back at President Reagan, who had the most successful tax reform that in my lifetime. It took basically a year after he got elected, and he had to invest enormous capital. He made it his #1 priority because he knew it would unleash economic growth that would help him with rebuilding the military and all of his other items on his agenda. So if Rand Paul gets elected, he'd have to come forward quickly and say, hey, I ran on this, the American people gave us a mandate to do that. He'd have to round up the members of Congress in both parties, but Republicans as well as Democrats, and say, I know you guys like all these loopholes and the lobbyists come and give you money because you make the tax code complicated. We're not doing that. So if you're on my team, we're going to change this code and get it done for the American people.
And very quickly, 30 seconds, have the Republicans done enough? When they were running, they said, we're going to put bills on Obama's desk, we're going to pass legislation, if he vetoes it, he vetoes it. When it comes to economic issues, have they done enough? Have they put enough on his desk for him to sign or veto?
I think they have done very little, sadly. And now they're about to pass or use what's called budget reconciliation, which lets a majority, Republican majority in the Senate and a majority in the House do exactly that. I hope they'll use it to repeal Obamacare, to show that they're for tax cuts. And
that's what they ran on, Congressman, and I'm not holding my breath, but I'm with you. They haven't done nearly enough. Have a great weekend, sir. Thank you very much.
Great to talk to you.
Up next, National Review columnist David French.